Savage's newsagents of Monaghan Street.
Later on, he went down to Hong Kong and China coast, and he was a captain of a ship, and he used to sail all around the Middle East, the Far East, and also Australia.
This man is a wonderful human being, Neville Henshaw. He's a Scouser, he's Liverpudlian, and we're talking about Blue Funnel. We have a small piece of commonality, and only one. This man was a signal soldier at the time of the war, went onto the beaches at Normandy, will soon be given the Legion of Honor by the French, a Chevalier of the Legion of Honor from France for his work and the work of his comrades on the beach at Normandy.
Yeah, well,
it's a privilege to have you in this studio. Neville Henshaw. And you're part of the congregation at Warren Point Presbyterian Church.
Yes.
Goodness gracious.
Yes. Oh, they're a lovely crowd. We're all good friends, you know.
Yeah.
All good pals and having the odd laugh and joke amongst each other, you know.
Absolutely. We discovered before just coming live to you that Neville went on the beaches on the 6th of June.
6th of June.
45.
Yeah, and even it was round about dinner time, midday.
Midday.
I remember all those details.
And you crossed, I was born on the 29th of May, so just the end of May, just a few days difference.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness gracious.
I left Gosport, that's where we left from. Gosport.
And you crossed in, what kind of craft were you in crossing the channel?
LST, landing ship tank.
So it's the ones that we see on television?
Yeah. Landing LST we call them,
LST.
Landing ship tank.
Yeah, and there's very little
the
LST.
Most uncomfortable
Oh, that's
ship
what I was thinking. You would have been pitching and rolling.
Terrible. We had no beds, no bunks. We had to lie on the deck.
How long were you at sea?
Only we left on the Monday evening. Monday evening, round about tea time, 6 o'clock or something, and it was a very slow progress because a few times we anchored. We went along the east coast of what's the island there?
Oh yeah, of the Isle of Wight.
Right.
Yeah. You were down by the Needles.
And yeah, that's right. And finally we got into the channel, and we anchored a few times. And what I can always remember, when it got dark, the whole channel was bright with twinkling lights, both on the right-hand side of us and on the left-hand side. And obviously these were other ships that take, and it was a slow progress, and we couldn't see anything at that stage. And then when the dawn came, and
you headed?
Yes, and finally we got close to the French coast, and at before that point, we didn't know where we were going to land.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the officers did, but I was only a lance corporal.
You were 19?
19, one stripe.
Yeah, one stripe, a lance
one
corporal.
Stripe.
So what was in your heart in the approach to the whole thing? This was an amazing adventure. You knew that you were did you know you were out to combat tyranny and to bring the reign of the Nazi to an end?
All we knew that we were taking part in a very important operation which would help in bringing the war to an end. This was more or less being said to us. But at that time, they weren't telling us, ordinary soldiers, the exact places where but on that trip, our officers got us together before we landed, and he says, you're landing on the coast of Normandy, and he said, the place we are landing is Gold Beach. Gold Beach, and it's about 3 miles from Arromanches, and that's where we were going to land, and he gave us that information. We halfway across.
Yes, yes.
And then, of course, as the the dawn it got lighter, and we started to hear the noise of the guns and everything. And
so was there a constancy of that noise? It was there
yes,
all the time?
Yes, well, the Royal Navy was shelling the coast. And in fact, on the way up to our beach, we passed HMS Belfast.
Which is now in London.
Yeah. Well, that was, and the Belfast was at that time shelling the coast. And then we were going to land at a place called Le Hamel, which was 3 miles away from Arromanches, and the village of Le Hamel. And as we approached that beach, there was a lot of noise. You couldn't even see Jerry. You couldn't see the Germans. No. But you could hear them all right. And,
are we talking machine gun fire here?
Oh, yes. In fact, as we got, as we landed in about 2.5 foot of water. It was still, and I did a stupid thing because, as like others, we dropped, the ramp went down of our LST, and I tripped. Oh, and went under, holding my rifle, and some fella behind me, and I never found out, even to this day, who it was. He hauled me up from behind, out the water, and shouted and screamed at me, "Get going, get going." And I was soaking wet, you know.
Yeah.
And our officer, we had a very good young chap officer, and he said to us before we actually landed at that point, he says, "There's a tank halfway up the beach there, which had been blown up, a British tank."
Yes.
Been blown up by and they said it's in ruin. He says, "That's on the way across the beach." He says, "Stop behind that tank, you get your breath back, and just stop and get your breath back for a few minutes." He says, "That'll give you a chance to get, you know." So
you were behind that tank, taking your breath.
Yes, well,
when you were there.
Yes.
What was happening around you? What were you seeing around the side of the tank? What were you feeling at that time?
Oh, just everything was happening. There was big noise, people landing on the left. We went in small groups. Our method of going on the beaches had always been never to go in line ahead, but in groups of 4, separate little groups. That was the way we always were trained to cross a beach. And the Americans did the very opposite. The Americans, that's why they lost so many casualties on Omaha Beach, because the way they did, they landed in line ahead, and they were cut down by the Germans on the cliffs. Yeah. I mean, it was like a duck shoot. They lost a lot of casualties.
When you started running again, from behind the tank,
we stopped at the tank.
Yeah. Then you got your breath. Yeah. And away you went again.
Yeah.
How far more had you to run?
Not far. But
had you the sense you would be safe when you went that distance?
Well, we didn't know. But the thing was, the beach was very soft, and we couldn't run fast. And so we didn't have a large distance to cross. But as we were crossing, I was in a group of 4. 2 of them on my one side were hit, but they weren't killed, they were injured, and later on had to be seen by medics. The fellow on my right-hand side dropped as I was crossing, and I thought he'd just been hit. I didn't, you know, we were being screamed at and shouted at, and to keep on going, keep on going. And it wasn't until afterwards I realized he was shot dead alongside of me, only inches from me. So I was so lucky. It could have been me, very easy. And so we managed to cross, and finally there was one particular pillbox which was having a go at us. And finally I got across the beach out of the field of fire, if you know what I mean. And there was some buildings there on the edge, on the coast, and some of them have been badly damaged by shell fire. But our officers, one of our officers who was still alive, he was screaming, he says, go to that particular building. It had had its roof blown off. He says, you might find a space there. And we did that, just a few of us, and got inside part of a building which had been partly destroyed, but we got into a space where we were covered. Yeah. And we set up our communications, and from there we started contacting the different regiments. There was the Hampshires, the Dorsets and the Sherwood Foresters, all landing round about there. And our job was to contact them and pass messages once we were on the beachhead, you know.
Hold that thought for a moment, because we're coming straight back.
Destination Newry. Keep it on. We're back in moments.
OSM Engineering, Chancellors Road, Newry, specialising in PLC programmes, electrical control systems and supplies, electrical, pneumatic, hydraulic and mechanical maintenance. Vast range of electrical components in our new shop, and a wealth of combined experience of over 50 years. Contact us today, OSM Engineering, 11 Chancellors Road, Newry, 308 38778 or 308 38782 or osm-irl.com.
The Modern Fireplace Company and Monumental Works, including the Granart Stone, are local businesses which have been operating from the heart of Newry for 35 years. We specialise in the manufacturing, supply and fitting of any natural stone products our clients require. From our beginnings as fireplace specialists and monumental sculptures, we now also offer a beautiful range of natural stone products for all needs, including fireplaces, headstones, architectural stone, hard landscaping, flooring and workshops. For further information you can contact us on 028 3026 4185 or email info@granartstone.com, or why not call into our showroom at Cecil Street, Newry.
Down to Max for fresh food at great prices. We deliver free to local businesses and schools, and we also deliver to the local area for a small charge of £3. So come down to us now.
The amazing world of fine furniture. McCabe's on the Belfast Road, an Aladdin's cave of hidden treasure. Quality above all. 5 generations trading. McCabe's have it right. A pride in tradition. The creation of value. Value and quality in our beds. Value and quality throughout the home. Value and quality in the finest sofas and chairs. Dining tables, chairs, memorable feasts. Pianos, a symphony of quality and value in a shop that grows in size with every step you take. McCabe's, the Belfast Road, Newry.
If you would like to watch our shows from the comfort of your home, contact Destination Newry now to get yourself a Roku box. Call us on 028 30 834 010.
Destination. You've reached your destination.
It is with the greatest sense of privilege that I talk today to Neville Henshaw, who at the age of 19 landed on Gold Beach in Normandy as part of the operation to end the tyranny on continental Europe, the tyranny caused by the Nazis. You've landed. The man going up the beach alongside you has been shot dead. You go forward in, you've established a beachhead in a building that's partly demolished. You're a signaller.
Yeah.
And your job is to establish communications with the other regiments.
That's right.
But as a signaller, you were a prime target because the enemy would have known if they take you out, then they isolate all of your people.
Yeah, yes, I suppose so. We didn't think like that, you know, at the time. All we knew, we had a job to do, and we were hoping to get to the position where we could do the job, and that was really. I mean, once we got out of the field of fire, then we managed to sort of collect ourselves, shall I say, and in fact, the very place where the Germans were the gun point,
yes,
which was after later it was attacked by shell fire, and you see, and I think what we were told was that the German soldiers who had been in this pillbox had been they were wiped out by shell fire from the Navy.
From the Navy, yeah.
Yeah, and I often think to this day, you know, there was these fellas probably the same age as ourselves doing their job, and they were killed, and we were doing our job trying to. And I often think how ridiculous the whole thing was. 19-year-old me against a German 19-year-old, seeing people crossing the beach, which his job was to defend, and me as a job trying to attack. Ridiculous. Yeah. You know.
But
well, we didn't think that way.
No.
All you were focused on what you had to do personally, because if you didn't do the job properly, you were in serious trouble.
Yes.
You know.
To be trapped on that beach in the open in the line of fire.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So finally, we were able to. We were in that area. The fire lessened because we landed around about midday. Most of the really heavy fire was earlier on, about 7 o'clock in the morning. So we were lucky, really. The fire lessened, and we then moved away inland from where we were on the beach and went to a field, and then set up a much bigger operation, signals operation. We were then joined by the rest of our unit, and we were on that. But at that time, the town of Caen was still under heavy resistance and fire from the German army. They were putting up a huge resistance, and Montgomery, who was the overall leader, he had expected to capture Caen within 24 hours. Nowhere near. He captured Bayeux within 24 hours, and one or two other places on the coast. But Caen, the Germans put up a huge resistance on Caen, and the resistance was so heavy that it was ordered in England, the bombers were ordered to go and attack Caen. And in some ways that was terrible in a way, because the bomber Harris, as he was known at the time, in charge of the bombers, and some other leader, they then bombed Caen and did awful damage. They did more damage to Caen than we did as an army. and a lot of, you know, German families, women and children, people were all. I often think that was a shame in a way, because, but it was done because it was thought that it was the only way to finish off and capture Caen. It's awful when you think how bad, you know. Well, finally, Caen was captured only about a month later.
Yes.
From June. I think it was around about the 15th of July, or around about that.
Yeah.
And later on, we'd already established a much more permanent base inland.
Yes.
And I had to go with an officer into Caen to establish something. I can't remember what it was now. The whole of Caen was just a sea of rubble. And that was done by the British boys. A sea of rubble. Only one building was standing in the middle of Caen, and that was the castle where William the Conqueror used to live. That castle still standing.
Still standing there.
It had been partly damaged, but I mean, it was such a strong castle.
These when you went into Caen, these were difficult things for 19-year-old eyes to see.
Yeah, it was. It was, you know, it was all, I suppose by that time we got relief the fact that we're no longer being shot at, you know, and we were beginning to get hold of ourselves and steady ourselves, shall we put it that way. But you started to see things which really, you know, after the capture of Caen, we then moved on, and later on we followed the army into Belgium and took part in various actions in Belgium.
Well, when you say you took part in various actions, these were actions that exposed you to fire.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yes, one place I got to was Ghent, and a lovely old town in Belgium, and I was put on the little camp that we set up there. I was doing guard duty, and when I was on guard duty one night, I was with another chap, and we suddenly were attacked by what amounted to German. I suppose there were certain Germans who set themselves up to, what's the name?
Well, to remain undercover there and wait for you coming.
Exactly, yeah.
You know, they were there to ambush you.
Yeah, exactly. And we were ambushed, and I was partly hit in my leg, but the fellow I was with was shot dead. So that was another little thing which, you know, grabbed you. But these odd events happened, and some of our unit. I mean, for instance, we had a motorbike rider. What do they call them?
Dispatch fellow.
Dispatch rider.
Yep.
And one of our unit, we had dispatch riders, and one of them, he was taking a message somewhere, and the Germans had set up various places where they strung wire across the road at a certain level, and the wire would be to stop people like dispatcher and also jeeps, and he lost his head. I never forget that.
Yeah.
on his motorbike.
Yeah.
And Cindy was name.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, anyway.
You saw so much, and you encountered so much, and you had to fire, obviously, in your own defence.
Oh,
you were on a mission, and you had to shoot.
Well,
you had to kill Germans.
Yeah, and you know, there's nothing else for it. You know, they were going to attack, but the strange thing is, later on, when the war got near the end, and we went into Germany, and we were at a village in Germany, and I got friendly with a German family. 2 boys.
How did you get friendly with that family? How did it happen?
I'll tell you how it happened. There were 2 boys, German boys, really lovely lads, and they come round wanting to do jobs for us. And one of the things they would offer to do, I suppose it was said by the parents, was to take washing that we had to clean for us and do for us. And we used to give them, they didn't want money, but we would give them things like the coffee and chocolate and things like that as a sort of payment. And then one day I was invited to a family, and I'll never forget this. I hope it's relevant to you, but I was taken to this family, and the mother, they had a mother and a grandmother in this house, and later on they were joined by the father who'd been in the German army in the Panzers and had just been demobbed.
Yes.
And I was given hospitality. They had very little to give, and they didn't have. They used to make a sort of coffee out of acorns.
Yes. Acorn
coffee, and they gave us hospitality, and I ended up shaking hands with the man who had been in the Panzers. You know, it sounds ridiculous, and you know, it often makes me think now. They were, you know, they were doing their job, and we were doing our job.
And you kept
yeah,
going.
and it was the leaders who were at the top who were organising.
It has often been said that the soldiers were lions led by donkeys.
Yes.
Now, what's your take on that?
Well, I wouldn't completely agree with the donkeys seem to suggest something. No, I think the heads, they felt that they were doing their job to organise where their armies and where their people should go. But a lot of them didn't realise, you know, the real depth of the people that they were dealing with. They were interested in organising their different armies, where they should place them. That was all a part of, you know, how to capture a certain area and who to send. But they weren't really interested in the personal feelings of the personal people involved. You know.
I suppose if they had displayed such an interest, it would have been an obstacle in achieving the ultimate end.
Yes, it would have completely. Yeah, you're quite right. Well, that's the thing about it all, you see, and of course a lot of these thoughts come afterwards.
Yes,
you know, and I have often thought of. Particularly, I often have passed of that family and those 2 boys. And I even remember their names. Manfred and Jürgen.
Manfred and Jürgen.
Manfred and Jürgen.
And then the man who shook your hand, who was in the Panzers.
Yes, he was in the Panzers. He'd been an officer, I believe. And he still was wearing uniform. And we shook hands. And his wife gave us hospitality, and his grandmother, you know.
Neville,
Sounds ridiculous, doesn't it?
Yeah, but it's it's the way of war. It's the way of life.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you were. You've succeeded. You've done your job.
Yes.
You've been cheek by jowl with death.
Yeah.
How does that affect a man?
I don't know. When I came out, when I was demobbed, my mother and I always remember at demob time, my father kept on at me. Oh, he says, you need to get a job. And I couldn't talk about, people were asking me, like you're asking me. I didn't want to talk about it. No way did I want to, I put it all behind me. All I wanted was to get a job. I was demobbed, and what I was going to do in life from now onwards, you know.
Yeah.
And it was my dad who helped me in that.
Ah, yes.
And I sat an exam, and I finally became a customs officer of all people.
Yeah.
And but no way. But it's only I don't know whether I think this happens to most when you get older. It's only during the last 10 to 20 years that suddenly these memories are hit me again.
Yeah.
They never did before. When I came home,
Yeah.
I didn't want to know.
No, it was very fresh and raw then.
Yeah.
It hadn't had time to settle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's hard to describe the basic feeling, but it's now that certain things come very sharp and clear, you know, and it was. We were very fortunate because there were 5 beaches there, and the 2 American beaches were Omaha and Utah, and 2 British beaches, which were Gold and Sword Beach, and the Canadian beach was Juneau, and but the one thing which you know afterwards, you reading about the whole operation after. Do you know how many people were killed on D-Day? Soldiers. 6,000 were killed. 6,000 soldiers were killed on that one day, the 6th of June, Tuesday. And that always hits me now. And I think to myself, I'm one that didn't.
Yeah.
I'm one of the survivors.
Yeah.
I'm one of the lucky ones.
Yeah.
How did I ignore being one of that 6,000?
What's your answer to that? Did you feel that you had that you had a God close to you who was looking after you? And what was it?
Well, I didn't think an awful lot at first. It was at the time, you know, you just take it as it comes, but it's afterwards and then these sort of thoughts hit you, you know, and I think it was. I began to realize very much that you know, I know as I was crossing that the rest of the beach, I was praying. I was saying prayers to myself, and I was saying, "Please God, help me." You know, look, I was actually praying, and then I was thinking, thoughts of my mother and dad were going through my head. I thought, what on earth? Because I got to a point where I was convinced I was going anyway. I wouldn't be alive, and I was thinking, please God, look after my mother and father, and explain to them, and this was the sort of things going through my head. This probably sounds a bit daft, but
not a bit of it.
But that's the best way of answering you. But yes,
you were there and you did it. Looking back now, you're 90.
Yeah.
You're a strong man still.
Yeah.
You have a good congregation around you in Warren Point Presbyterian Church. fellowship important to you still?
Very much.
Because you had fellowship with your colleagues in the army.
Oh, yeah. Yes, because they were a family. You see, the thing about the army was it didn't matter. Everyone had different ideas, different faiths, but you became a family. And if one of your family was in trouble, you helped them. And if you were in trouble, they helped you, you know. And that was the important thing. Yeah. But I became, as I came out the army, I started to look into my mind mentally, and then I started, I know it's not part of what you're trying to, but suddenly, to me, I suddenly realized to me who God was and where heaven was. It probably sounds daft.
No, not at all.
That became very important to me, but I suddenly thought, well, I'd been brought up with the usual as a boy, thinking of God and his throne in heaven, overlooking the universe and judging, you know, that was sort of part of my life. And suddenly, as I was doing, I suddenly thought, no, God is not, that's not God. And I suddenly realized God was part of me. And it didn't matter where I was, he was always part of me. And that, you know, we joined together of people of similar faith in various places, churches, to sing praises and everything. But in actual fact, the presence of God was part of me. And, yes, this is one of the big things that hit me. Yeah. And suddenly thought, I suddenly realized where heaven was then.
Yeah.
Heaven was when you find peace and a certain joy in happiness of one of the things which hit me very much was my mother used to always say to me as a boy, and I didn't understand it. I thought it was nonsense. And she would say, "'Tis better to give than it is to receive."
Oh, you got it.
And I thought that was nonsense, you know. Coming up to Christmas time, I thought it was much better to receive than it was to give, you know. But then I suddenly realized what she was getting at, that it was a question of giving of yourself.
Yeah.
So many things we can give of our fellowship, our kindness, our advice, our sympathy, all these things that we can give.
Thank you for coming in. It's been a joy speaking to you.
Oh, thank you very much.
And a magnificent privilege.
I've talked too much, I'm afraid, but...
Not a bit. Not a bit.
Oh, thanks, Joe, and that's very kind of you. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
I enjoy being here. Yeah.
We're back in moments.
Kelly's is a well-known and trusted name in home improvement and the building trade. We are committed to bringing you good value by delivering high-quality materials, tools and equipment for trade use and home DIY projects at very competitive prices. At Kelly's, we can help you build your dream home, or why not book your next car service, or even help out your swing with the best golf tuition money can buy. Stock up this winter with great value stoves and boilers. Contact us now on 028 417 736 74 or call in and see us at Milltown East Industrial Estate, Upper Dromore Road, Wormpoint, Newry. Visit us online, kellys-diy.com. Kelly's, serving the industry since 1997.
Louis Boyd's, 58 Mill Street, Newry. If you want to dress to impress, Louis Boyd's is for you. Style, comfort and great value. Louis Boyd's. Menswear labels now in stock. Diesel, Tommy Hilfiger, Superdry, Ramus Yomo and G-Star. Also communion and confirmation wear. Open Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday and Saturday 9 to 5:30. Thursday and Friday 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Sunday 1 to 5 p.m. Louis Boyd's, 58 Mill Street or louisboyd.com.
Advertise your business here. Reach a weekly audience of 275,000 people. Be ahead of the rest. Call Damien on 078 08 80 34 75 or 028 308 34 012. JT Carpets Newry has been servicing the floor covering needs of Ireland since the 1970s. We have Ireland's largest stock of carpets on display. You can always be assured of our professional commitment to quality, service and outstanding value. Stocking a wide range of carpets, vinyl, wooden flooring, furniture, rugs and accessories. We are committed to providing the right product for your individual needs. Contact us today on 028 3083 9944. Why not call in store today in Bestbrook Industrial Estate, Mill Road, Newry.
The Brass Monkey has entertained Newry locals for almost 4 decades, and we have learned a few tricks on how to treat our customers. The Brass Monkey, one of Newry's finest restaurants, offers excellent customer service and outstanding food. Open from 10 a.m. each morning, we serve breakfast, lunch and dinner. Sunday carvery, 12 to 4 every Sunday. Live music Saturdays and Sundays. Great promotions such as 3 for £10 on any cocktail, or our early bird menu from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. The Brass Monkey services include taking bookings, walk-ins welcome, good for groups or parties, good for children, table service and outdoor seating.